We all know that feedback is the lifeblood of any classroom, but it's especially crucial in a comprehension-based language setting. Why? Because we're not just teaching vocabulary and grammar rules, we're shaping how students interact with the new language and culture. It's a tall order, and the right feedback can make all the difference. So how do we give this feedback that's not just effective, but also empowers our students? I'm glad you asked. I've put together a list of the top 5 strategies that have been game changers in my own classroom. These aren't just random tips. They're grounded in the principles of comprehensible input and second language acquisition. These strategies will help you provide feedback that's targeted, constructive, and most importantly, effective. My name is Scott, and you're watching Immediate Immersion, where we're all about comprehension-based instruction in the modern language classroom. We'll be right back. Let's start by talking about the first strategy on our list, focusing on specific language targets and providing clear explanations. You know how it is. Language is vast, and the temptation to cover everything at once can be overwhelming. But let's be real. That's like trying to drink from a fire hose. It's not effective, and it's downright exhausting for both you and your students. Instead, think of your classroom as a guided tour through the language landscape. You wouldn't show tourists every single landmark in one go, right? The same applies to language learning. Pick specific language targets, be it a tense, a set of vocabulary, or a conversational scenario, and delve deep. Make it the star of the show for that lesson or unit. Clear explanations are your tour guide script here. Once you've chosen a language target, break it down. Use examples, analogies, or even stories to make the concept stick. Remember, we're aiming for comprehension, not just rote memorization. And the clearer and more focused your explanations, the easier it is for students to internalize the language, use it correctly, and most importantly, feel confident while doing so. The art of giving feedback is not just about pointing out what's wrong. It's about paving the way for what could be right. In a comprehension-based language classroom, feedback is more than just red ink on paper. It's a dialogue, a way to guide your students towards becoming more effective communicators in their new language. First off, let's talk constructive feedback. This isn't just about correcting errors, it's about providing actionable advice. Instead of just marking a sentence as incorrect, explain why it's wrong and offer a correct alternative. This turns a mistake into a learning opportunity, and who doesn't love those? Now, on to being supportive. We've all had those moments where we felt like giving up on learning something new, right? Your students are no different. Supportive feedback is like giving them a small win, a pat on the back that says, hey, you're getting there, keep going. It could be as simple as praising their correct use of a tricky verb tense or acknowledging the improvement in their pronunciation. And let's not forget about encouraging growth. The end goal isn't just to get an A on a test. It's to actually use the language in real-world situations. Emphasize the journey and celebrate the small victories along the way. This fosters a growth mindset where challenges are just a stepping stone to mastery, not insurmountable obstacles. So the next time you're dishing out feedback, remember, make it constructive, make it supportive, and make it a catalyst for growth. So you've given your students some killer feedback. Great. But what happens next? That's where the magic of revision comes into play. Providing opportunities for students to revise and improve their work isn't just a second chance at getting it right. It's an integral part of the learning process, especially in a comprehension-based language classroom. Think about it. What's the point of feedback if it's not acted upon? Revision is where the rubber meets the road. It's the stage where students can apply what they've learned from your feedback and actually see the transformation in their language skills. It's one thing to understand a correction intellectually, but it's a whole different ballgame to implement it and make it part of one's language repertoire. But here's the kicker. Revision shouldn't feel like a chore or a punishment for getting something wrong. Frame it as an opportunity, a lab session where they can experiment, tweak, and refine their language skills. Encourage them to not just correct their mistakes, but also to analyze them. Why did they make that error in the first place? What can they do to avoid it in the future? By making revision a regular part of your classroom routine, you're sending a powerful message that learning is an ongoing process and mistakes are just milestones on the road to fluency. All right, let's talk about diversifying our feedback toolkit. We've all been there, relying solely on one form of feedback and wondering why it's not resonating with every student. The truth is, just like in language learning, variety is the spice of life when it comes to feedback. A blend of written, oral, and peer feedback can offer a more holistic view of a student's performance and potential. First up, written feedback. It's the classic, the old reliable. Written feedback is great for detailed explanations and can serve as a reference point for students. They can go back, review your comments, and absorb the information at their own pace. But let's be honest, it can sometimes lack the nuance and immediacy of real-time interaction. Enter oral feedback. This is your chance to provide instant, in-the-moment guidance. It's especially useful for correcting pronunciation or intonation where written words just can't capture the essence. Plus, it allows for a more dynamic exchange where you can gauge student reactions and clarify points on the spot. Now, don't underestimate the power of peer feedback. Students often feel more comfortable receiving feedback from their peers. And let's face it, they sometimes speak the same language, metaphorically speaking. Peer feedback can offer insights that you might not have considered and can be particularly valuable for group activities and collaborative assignments. By using a mix of these feedback methods, you're not just covering all of your bases, you're also catering to different learning styles and preferences. Some students thrive on written notes, while others need to hear it to understand it. And sometimes hearing feedback from a peer can be the nudge a student needs to truly grasp a concept. If you found these strategies useful and you're itching to go even deeper into the world of assessment, I've got just the thing for you. Our Assessment Academy. This isn't your run-of-the-mill training. It's a collection of 10 webinars that dive deep into everything you need to know about proficiency-based grading, crafting effective rubrics, and creating a variety of assessments tailored for comprehension-based language classroom. Trust me, this is the kind of resource that can truly transform your approach to assessment and in turn, supercharge your students' language acquisition journey. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to join the Assessment Academy and take your teaching to the next level. See you there. Last, but definitely not least, let's talk about fostering a growth mindset in our language learners. In a comprehension-based classroom, the focus is often on understanding and meaningful interaction. Well, that makes it perfect setting to emphasize effort and progress over just grades or test scores. After all, language acquisition is a marathon, not a sprint. First things first, let's break the myth that language aptitude is a fixed trait. It's not. Just like any other skill, it can be developed and honed with time and effort. When you emphasize this in your feedback, you're telling your students that they have the power to improve, to reach new heights in their language journey. It's a game changer for motivation and engagement. But how do you actually put this into practice? Start by highlighting the effort behind the work. Did a student struggle with past tense but finally nailed it in their latest essay? Celebrate that. Show them that their hard work is paying off, even if they haven't reached perfection yet. Use phrases like, "You've come a long way with," or "I can see you've been working hard on," to acknowledge their journey. Also, make it a point to celebrate small wins and incremental progress. Maybe they've expanded their vocabulary or improved their pronunciation. These might seem like minor milestones, but they add up to create a competent language user. By fostering a growth mindset, you're doing more than just teaching language. You're empowering your students to be lifelong learners. Remember, feedback isn't just about correcting mistakes. It's about guiding our students on their journey to language fluency. By focusing on specific language targets, offering constructive and supportive feedback, and encouraging a growth mindset, we're not just teaching a language, we're building confident communicators. Don't underestimate the power of diverse feedback methods either. A mix of written, oral, and peer feedback can offer students a well-rounded view of their progress. Now, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights in the comprehension-based language teaching. Until next time, happy comprehensible input.